On today's starting nine, Snake and Carl sit down with legendary manager Joe Maddon to catch up on life in baseball, their time together in Chicago winning championships, and what lies ahead. Before our sit down, we recap the first ever Wildcard weekend, handicap the winners' chances in the Division series, then bring on the short porch boys, Hubs and Smokes, to take the pulse of Yankees fans everywhere going into this week's matchup with the Guardians. It's a heavy show, so let's get into it. Action! And welcome back to Starting Nine. Carl here in Chicago. Snake, you are in Texas, rural part of Texas, it appears. Amazing weekend of wild card action. We're going to get into some DS. We're going to sit down with your former manager, like we said off the top, Joe Maddon. But I got to know, how's Columbus Day? How the kids? How's the family?
Kids are off school. We're out here in Fredericksburg, getting some things done on property. But man, I watched a majority of the Mets Padres. Game 3, unbelievably exciting. Was there slippery stuff on Musgrove's ear? We don't know. But man, those wild card series were unbelievable. From the Toronto, obviously, Seattle won both games. The Guardians won both games. And the momentum that gives them moving on into the DS is pretty incredible. So a lot of exciting stuff to talk about, buddy.
Yeah, amen. I'll say so. We had a great stream, too, Phillies Cardinals. That was like 3.5 hours long. Thanks to anybody that tuned into that.
Yeah,
so we have more of those coming, and we're going to have some guests join us again in the future with that. So I'm very excited to do more of those streams. I'm always excited to measure myself with baseball, watching people with baseball. I will say I had high expectations for you going into that. You are much sharper than I thought, too. And I'm not sitting here trying to blow you because that's the last thing I want to do. But you did pick up on you met and exceeded expectations because I was like,
I'm
man,
a baseball guy.
I hope he's picking up on shit like the way I want him to. And
Come on, I'm a baseball guy. You know what? You actually threw in quite a few distractions in there that were somewhat taking me away from my ability to dial into the game. But I like that. You're talking about ordering pizza, and you got people in the background that had that had a faster feed than you, which kind of threw us off a little bit. We were trying to sync up our game. We had to pause it. Hey, where are the cactuses? But we made it work. we made it work. I had some Jameson and gingers flowing. I ate some gumbo and rice. So that was a blast. I had the setup downstairs, and people love the bar view. We should do it again. I did tell the boys in Philly that we would be there for a DS game. So maybe we got to get up there and watch them play one of those games. Who the hell fuck? We got to watch them play they got to play
the Braves.
The Braves. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Perfect.
That'd be nice.
Sorry,
I'm sorry. It's not intentional, but I don't know. Chris Bassett probably isn't the guy you want to have on the mound in a win-or-go-home game. No offense to Bassett. He's a nice little arm, but I don't know if it's nice enough.
Let's start there. Mets Padres. Colin, you feel free to chime in as much as you want. I do want to agree with Jake here that Bassett is a guy in an elimination game, but this is kind of the 3-game series. That's what it forces you to do. They don't have a choice, right?
You didn't expect to lose, game 1 in the way that you did. Whether it's a 1-run loss or a 6-run loss, whatever the final score ended up being, but kind of demoralizing for the Mets, to have such high expectations from Scherzer, which you should. And then he comes out and I think he gave up 6 runs, 3 or 4 homers. But look, I mean, the guy's human. We're so accustomed and we're so conditioned to watching him pitch a certain way, especially in those types of games, that it seems like what the hell just happened. But then you look at the way Darvish pitched, and he dealt. There's no other way around it. And I said, look, if Darvish doesn't trust his fastball early in the game and he's not throwing his breaking balls for strikes, you can really get to him. But he's had an incredible year. I think he's had his lowest walk percentage of his career potentially. And one of his strikeout numbers have gone down a little bit, but he's in the zone more. And I've never seen somebody that can do as much with the baseball as he can. And when he's on, he's on. It's just, he's really hard to beat.
Yeah, it is tied for about his lowest walk rate, 1.7.
which is really good.
A really filthy 5.3 strikeout to walk ratio. He showed up. Did you see anything from Scherzer? He is 37. Is it just like when a guy like that loses just like a little bit, or is it just balls elevated and the hitters are better? What did you
Yeah,
see?
I mean, there's some of that, but Scherzer's always been able to elevate, not even necessarily at the very top of the strike zone, more so than other people, because of his deception, because of his carry through the strike zone, which is something that I don't know if that gets talked about enough. It's the way that the ball moves from, like, so let's say, a foot in front of the plate to the catcher's mitt. It's got that extra gear. He typically has that when he's out there. I did hear some people talking about this, and I don't know if there's any truth to it, but because of the oblique, he started to go away from his cutter a little bit more. Um, I saw him throw quite a few. I don't think it was quite as effective. But he was dealing with that oblique, and the oblique injury is something that can definitely linger even after you're healthy. You can kind of have like a little stitch in there, like even if you're healthy, it's just kind of something you feel on occasion. So, um, I don't want to say that he wasn't 100%. He didn't look like himself. Um, and the Padres took advantage of it. I mean, they were just a better team in that series.
So then last night, big thing jumped out. Obviously, Buck Showalter coming out and having Musgrove's ear checked. I have some takes on it. I thought Gary Cohen had the perfect take on it. You know Joe Musgrove personally. Bob Melvin came out in the post conference after and said, "There's no way this is the type of guy to even have his integrity. He's just not that type of guy to go out and cheat." Um, Kind of a bad look for the Mets. Kind of a very bad look for the Mets. If you know, I'm going to give you here's Gary Cohen's take on it. I thought Gary Cohen summarized it perfectly. He said Buck Showalter is completely in his rights to ask the umpires to check a pitcher for foreign substances. It's up to umpires then to decide whether it's an appropriate thing to do. I thought that considering the circumstances, 4-0, 6 innings, season on the line. It smacked of desperation. It was fairly embarrassing, I thought, for Buck to do that in that spot. It was not necessary. As it turned out, Musgrove was not cheating. If you're going to pull a stunt like that, you better be right, and Buck wasn't right.
No, it's absolutely something that seems to be out of character for Buck. Very desperate move, something that you expect to see from the guy like Davey Johnson and not necessarily Buck Showalter. Um, I Tony Watson and the Pirates drilled me in the wild card game in 2015, trying to get me off my game and potentially get me to do something to get me thrown out. So it's kind of one of those tactics. Um, and I saw a tweet that someone said he has red hot on his ears or some shit. I don't even know who sent that tweet. I was actually finishing up dinner with who said it? Andrew McCutcheon. Okay. I don't know. I mean, I don't know about that. I never saw, Musgrove put red hot on his ears. I mean, if that's the case, red hot's not going to do anything to the ball to enhance your grip. It's actually slippery. Um,
This is what McCutcheon said, too. And so just context. He goes, I guarantee Musgrove has red hot on his ears. Pitchers use it as a mechanism to stay locked in during games. It burns like crazy, and I don't know why some guys think it helps them, but in no way is it sticky. Buck is smart, though, could be trying just to throw them off. He had a lot of response. This was a very engaged tweet. What do you think about that? Were you using red hot? Is that what it is?
I used red hot, but I would put it on my shoulders, sometimes like triceps, my low back, mid back, upper back. But yeah, it's not something it's something to kind of like insulate you a little bit when it's cold. I know some guys will like lather up in Vaseline to like kind of close their pores to prevent cold from getting in. Yeah, I mean, that's something that guys have always used. I know like Roger Clemens used to put some on his taint to like fire him up, get his juices flowing. Uh, and you know what? McCutcheon and Musgrove played together, so he might know that might have been something that he liked to do, and it would absolutely fire you up, get you in a mindset, an aggressive mindset, and it worked out, But like McCutcheon said, it's not something that's sticky by any means.
You think it's Bush League?
The move to check him, I mean, yeah, but you're trying to do anything you can to win the game, desperate or not. It looks bad. Your guys just couldn't hit him. He was that good. It's not like, the storyline will probably be, well, the Mets didn't show up in a win or go home game. Look, Musgrove did, and we all know that elite pitching always trumps good hitting. Plain and simple. Like, probably the hardest thing to do in sports is hit a baseball. And when you have a guy on the mound like Musgrove, who's as fierce of a competitor and has that type of stuff, he might not have been as good, up into the postseason, but he dialed it in. He's more than capable of being a guy who can go out there and shut a team out on the road, big situation, win to send your team to the DS or lose and go home. He showed up for the moment and dominated a really good Mets team.
They just need a symbol. Of course, they think they're cursed. Mets fans really do think they're cursed, man. I don't know if you fully understand how fucked up Mets fans are. Like, Colin's pretty fucked up. Colin's just regular. Colin is a regular, normal Mets fan. And these dudes are, across the board, psycho. I had to text each one individually last night to make sure, don't hurt yourself. You have a friend in me. I'm here if you need anything. They're serious.
It's just
so Timmy Trumpets.
Insult to injury, right? They were in first place for 150 games or something, 152 games, and to to have it taken away from them like that at the end of the season, with a pretty, I don't want to say simple task in front of them, but you needed to win a couple games out of 5 or 6 against the Braves to win the division, and you just weren't able to do it. It's got to sting, and it should sting. But I promise you, it doesn't sting for anybody more than those players. I mean, they know how much was on the line. They know how much it meant to them and the organization and the fan base. Mets fans are passionate. It didn't work out.
Man.
It didn't work out.
But there's some people in that fan, they can never leave the Mets. Max Scherzer can go play for another team. Some of those guys have won before. There are some guys, listen, that they just don't win. There are guys that identify as losers because they're Mets fans.
Yeah, and it doesn't make it any easier when you're seeing articles about the best suitors for DeGrom and shit like that.
Now, Steve, a bad time. You might consider unretiring just based on the fact Steve Cohen's about to go spend $200 million this offseason. I don't even know if they have that in the budget, how much they're going to violate the luxury tax. But this dude is just going to come in there, $70 million to Aaron Judge, and $60 million to Carlos Rodon. No, not Carlos Rodon. Somebody, Trey Turner. Even though they don't even need him, they'll have Trey Turner be a utility guy or something. I'm telling you, Steve Cohen's going to get freaked out.
He should. He should. I mean, he's
bad boy with that money.
He was probably crying tears into his caviar last night. I mean, that was a tough one. I don't know, man. But you got me on the fact that fan bases don't leave, and players kind of come and go. That doesn't mean that they're not fully engaged in a part of it while they're there. But you're right. Like, you're a Mets fan for life, or any fan base you should be. Like, that's what a fan is. It's what a fan does. It's gonna be a long winter.
Hey, speaking of fan bases that are, you want to talk about getting a little taste here. The Mariners' comeback on Saturday was unbelievable. But first, I want to talk about our good friends at Game Time, because I know there's some Mariner fans that went out to Toronto, enjoyed themselves. They used the Game Time app, and they got the lowest tickets. That's because Game Time's a ticketing app that makes it easier than ever to score last-minute deals on tickets to sports. If you haven't given them a shot yet, I have no idea what you guys are waiting for. Tons of our fans are using it, hitting us up on social about the great deals. Like I said, bunch of Mariners fans, unbelievable tickets. Carl, thank you so much. I've been using Game Time all this year. We might be using it to go to some Phillies games. Who knows? It's easy to use, amazing deals. If you're going to go to a Philly NLDS game, I highly recommend you use the Game Time app. Let's see who can get a lower deal. Or a bigger deal, a lower ticket price. Download the Game Time app, go to the account tab to create a login, redeem code STARTING9 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Download Game Time, last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Game Time app, guys. I swear, if it's not in the rotation within the broader scope of getting your tickets to sports, concerts, events, and you're a moron. You're just a plain old moron.
It needs
at this
to
point.
be
Check
on
out Game
the
Time.
main screen of your iPhone, Android, in one of the main folders. Especially if you're a sports fan, you're buying a lot of tickets. Sign up, throw it in there, save yourself some money. And it's a no-brainer. I mean, we've talked about it all season, guys.
Hey, how about these Mariners? I like that matchup against the Blue Jays. Luis Castillo is a filthy
beast.
Filthy
He's a bad boy.
What a man.
You like to call him a bad boy. He is a bad boy. Well, that game just should give Seattle so much confidence. Being down 8-1, top of the sixth. They had, Gosman, bases loaded, no outs. I think he got 1 or 2 outs, and then they brought in the reliever. It was a pass ball. Santana, huge 3-run home run. What was scary, and, you saw Springer run into the wall to make that great catch. It hurts his wrist. Then top of the eighth, bases loaded, 2 outs. Crawford hits a shallow pop, kind of in no man's land, and Bichette and Springer collide. Very scary moment. Ends up getting carted off the field. And then Seattle has their first lead of the game in the 9th inning on a Frazier, go ahead 2-run double. Love Adam Frazier. He's a nice little hitter. But moving into the DS against against the who they playing. I can't even fucking think of it right now. They're not.
I'm gonna let you
they're
go.
not
you
playing
know
the
it.
Yankees. They're playing the Astros. There we go.
Yep.
It gives them confidence. They're playing a juggernaut in the Astros, but man, when you have momentum that builds like that and you win games in that fashion in the postseason, you can do anything now. It doesn't get any easier. But when you can win 2 games on the road like that in a hostile environment like the Rogers Center, you can beat the Astros. You got to do it. You got to beat them 3 out of 5 now. You got to beat them 3 out of 5. But it's possible. I think that it's going to be a phenomenal series, and I think the way that all of these wild card series went, it's gonna make for such a better DS on both sides in the American League and the National League.
I love that they used George Kirby yesterday. He gets a taste of the playoffs because that was a question coming in with Logan Gilbert slated to pitch Game 3. I was interested if George Kirby would get into the wild card series because if they do advance, you're going to need your 4 starting pitchers. He ended up getting the save, I believe. I also liked Andres Munoz looked phenomenal out there. Very crisp, clean, pumping like 101, 102.
Crazy.
By and large, Mariners used 10 pitchers in this series. For the most part, everybody except for Paul. Paul Sewell kind of had a tough go. I don't know if you saw that. He was just drilling guys. It honestly looked like he just had a thing where it was like, holy shit, I don't know what I'm doing right now. Like, have you seen guys break down in October like that before or heard stories about that?
I've seen it. I've heard it. I've been a part of all of it. You maybe grip the ball a little too tight. Your adrenaline is at a level where you can't necessarily down-regulate that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Where the adrenaline is dictating the situation rather than you being able to control that, dial it back a little bit, ease some tension, right? Like Chubbs always talks about,
It's all in the head.
and you start using the big muscles. You're trying to like throw a ball through a wall and you can't command it. So in environments like that, with the adrenaline as high as it's going to be, sometimes you'll see it. And maybe we saw some of that in the Game 2, and we'll probably talk about it. Phillies Cardinals with Helsley. I don't know. That was an interesting situation, but yes, sometimes shit happens like that. He drilled a guy with the bases loaded. Obviously not on purpose. Just having a hard time keeping his emotions in check.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. He'll bounce back. That's a close roster. Those are all veterans, Grizzly guys. You bring up Adam Frazier. I love it. Mississippi State Bulldog. That's a guy just lives for the moment. Struggled a little bit this year with Seattle. Like I think that's fair to say. Below what he normally hits at 238 for a guy who coming into the season was like a career 280 hitter. So I'm sure there's just frustrations there with him personally. So then having that moment top 9 to come in and deliver, all that momentum moving into the DS for them against the Astros. I do think out of all the teams to match up with the Astros, I do like the Mariners match up with them the most because, they've played them a ton. You know, they have the depth with the starting pitching where you don't have to rush guys back. You're not going to have to rush someone back on short rest, even though the ALDS has like an extra day of rest baked into it, I should point out. But it's still not any easy matchup with the Astros. The Astros are huge favorites. But
No, I think it's even more interesting because of how much familiarity they have with each other. Obviously, same division. They're playing each other a lot. So there's no secrets there. That's where like the Grandmaster versus Grandmaster chess match is gonna take place, and you're gonna see things happen maybe a little differently than you do during the regular season. And you kind of have to. I'll be interested to see the way that the pitchers on both sides attack these lineups, because I promise you this: they're going to have the information. Okay, 0-0 count, he's throwing me this 80% of the time. 0-1, it's this. 1-0, it's that. So there's not much that's that hasn't been done, and there's so much information. It's a fairly large sample size between these two teams. So I just can't wait to watch, man. Really can't. It's going to be a hell of a series, and they all are. I can't say it enough how excited I am to watch each and every one of these games moving forward.
let's talk about Helsley. You brought him up.
Yeah.
What'd you see there? I mean,
Well,
he looked like he was cruising.
Well, yeah. And the trainer came out and checked him. I don't know if it was a hand or a wrist issue. I'm sure there's information out. I didn't see any of it. They probably have a report out there. People are going to be, saying, "Yeah, this has already been addressed." But I don't know if he was hurt or if he just he lost it, like mentally, emotionally, just lost it. I mean, I don't know if that's the case, but he was dialed in, and then all of a sudden he can't find the strike zone. From a guy, like I've mentioned in the past, a .7 whip, commands the strike zone well, always around the zone. And then in probably the worst situation possible, he just completely lost it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think there's injury stuff there. I think it was a mental breakdown. I think it's standing out there on the mound, seeing the bases loaded. There was some video I saw behind the plate, and you could feel the entire moment just collapse on top of this pitcher. And I had been talking going into it, hey, it's great that Helsley has this experience in high leverage situations that aren't necessarily a clean ninth inning. This is a guy who's been doing it time and time again throughout the year. And to your point, yeah, .7 whip. That suggests that there's something bigger going on if you see multiple guys put on complete loss of command and control. But, and then obviously it could come back. Hey, it was he's got carpal tunnel. He's writing a science fiction novel in his free time, and just like caught up to him. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if that's it. But with how well he's thrown for your club in big situations, like that's the guy you're going to. And it's unfortunate that it ended the way it did. But look, I mean, Philly surmounted that comeback in Game 1, and then Nola goes out there and just absolutely dominates Game 2, like I knew he was going to. Again, a guy. You can put him in the most high pressure situation possible, and it doesn't matter. And it goes back to his preparation, and this is what all athletes, especially young athletes, need to understand. Preparation leads to confidence. Preparation allows you to be confident. Anything outside of that, if there's false confidence, like it will be exposed. But guys that dot every I, cross every T. They don't leave any stone unturned. Those are the confident guys, the guys that know every situation that could potentially come up. They're ready for it. They're not phased, and they go out there and they do their job. And happy for the Phillies. I didn't necessarily think it was going to happen in 2 games, but they were the better team.
Well, they won. See, this is when I look at it. They had 9 hits in 2 games, and they won. The pitching staff showed up. You get 2 great starts from those guys. So you're confident with Eflin moving forward as a closer. He did look pretty subtle.
He looked good. I mean, Alvarado looked good too. Look, they got.
Oh fuck! Here I am.
They've got Brogdon, who is going to pitch in this series against the Braves. They've got some guys. They've got Ranger Suarez, who's probably going to start a game for them. I like them, man. I just don't know. I mean, they don't have the depth of pitching that the Braves do. I mean, that's not a surprise. But at the top, like they're just as good at the top. Not having Spencer Strider. I don't know if they intend to have him ready. I don't believe he will be. But that's a benefit for the Padres not to have to see that arm.
He's opening. He's game 3. There's going to be an opener. I don't think he's going to start 5 to 6 innings, but the Braves do intend to run him out there. And in conjunction with this morning, announced that the Braves extend Spencer Strider 6 years, $75 million, with the 7-year option for $25 million and a 5-year $5 million.
What are the Braves doing? Yeah, I guess this is the way I look at it. Like, he's going to be looking at guys that are half as talented as him, making twice as much money in a few years. Man, I mean, I don't know what it is in the water in Atlanta, what they're doing with their guys, but they're easily able to convince all their star young players to sign early extensions. It's great for the team. It's great for the team, not necessarily financially long term the best move for some of these guys. But he's got security now, and that's that. Braves got him for 6 years.
I don't know if he's a Super 2 or if he's regular arbitration, but he is due at least $750 million or $750,000 next year, and then after that, best case scenario.
Like you're trying to buy a new car. What do you need? Like, I'll help you out. God, just like that's a $30 million a year arm or more.
Yeah, but he's not going to hit free agent. He's not a free agent until 2028.
But that number,
and he doesn't go to arbitration until 2025. So he would have to pitch 2023 and 2024, making $750,000.
The Braves probably
instead he's going to get
the Braves probably
$12 million.
If he says no to that, the Braves probably come to him again before spring training and say, "Hey, well, here's 90." And if he says no to that, he goes through spring training. He has 2 or 3 good months, or he makes the All-Star team. Oh, how about 110? So the number just goes up. I think that he was a little quick to pull the trigger. And look, this is nothing again. I love Spencer Strider. I think he's a phenomenal arm. This is just kind of thinking out loud about the possibility or the potential of him making way more money. So I don't know what the AAV is, 12, between 10 and 12 million or something like that. And he's going to be in the 5th year of that, looking at some guy, looking at a number 3, making 18.
What about the fact that he had Tommy John and he's a 4th rounder and he got hurt at the end of this year and he's only thrown 130 big league
games? It doesn't matter if he's a 4th rounder. He's one of the best arms this game has. He just punched out 16. He throws 100 plus miles an hour. He's got a nasty breaking ball. He's got a great mustache. He's got so much going for him. He plays for the Atlanta Braves. He's going to get a ton of run support. Tommy John, but there's hundreds of guys that have had Tommy John that come back healthy and pitch for a long, long time. I mean, look at Zach Wheeler. He was injured for years, and now he's one of the best pitchers in the game. Injuries do happen, but guys also come back from injuries now stronger than they ever have.
Yeah, it could be one of those situations where young guy, you see your buddy get engaged, the next guy gets engaged, and you just kind of see that excitement, and then you're Spencer Strider, like maybe I'll accept my extension offer. I want to be part of this. I want to be part of the crew. That happens to guys. That happens to young men. They get caught up in the moment.
Maybe you
just got caught up in the moment.
I know that, but you're still making good money. You're still a big leaguer. You're $750,000, like that's still nice money. Like just don't. You're not building the 15,000 square foot house yet. Just you can wait. I mean, how old is he? 20. He's so young.
It's hard to wait, man.
It's not that. I mean, it's right around the corner. Like before he knows it, he's going to be, in the third, fourth, fifth year of that deal, and being like, "Damn, I just won 19 games with a 2-2, and I'm making $9 million."
Well, anyways, a lot of guys at the Braves getting paid here, and I think what the Braves are doing is genius. End of the day, they have him at $12.5 million for the next 6 seasons, which is an unbelievable bargain, like you've talked about. That's just a steal.
And good on them
and the Braves just continue their run,
creating a culture there, and being able to offer these guys these contracts, and them all wanting to kind of buy in. So there is something to be said about that. I'm not just sitting here saying, "Oh, get as much money as you can," yada yada. But I do think at some point he'll be like, "Man, did I make the right decision?"
He's still playing, but I always felt bad for Anthony Rizzo, especially those the 2017, 2018, when he knew how much he was worth to the team. And congratulations on his season this year. He's still probably going to play for another couple more years. But to your point, at the time when he signed that deal, he had struggled with the Padres. He was part of this rebuild with the Cubs where there was really nobody there. He was the first guy there and had come up and had played well enough. And it was like, oh, this guy could be something special. And then they gave him that deal right away. And as fans, it was great because you're like, perfect, lock that guy into first base. We love watching him play every day. But you're not thinking about him on the other end. And throughout his course of his time with the Cubs, it became evident that was something he was disappointed that they weren't coming to him with an extension in the 4th year or the 5th year. They weren't trying to get him. They were just looking at it as a contract in terms. So hopefully the Braves don't encounter that situation because they flashed all their extensions that they've had, and it's like it's crazy. It's Austin Riley, it's Michael Harris, it's Spencer Strider, it's Ozzie Albies. Was Acuna on there? Everybody's getting paid.
Everybody's getting paid.
But not that much. Only Austin Riley's the only one getting paid a lot.
That was a head scratcher. Not that he's not worth it, but you see these other guys that you expected to sign for significantly more, and don't. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, there's only so much to go around, and if you want to keep that same group of guys together, you gotta. Some guys have to sacrifice.
Hey, before we talk to the Yankee guys, though, I think it's important we take a second to talk about our good friends at Live Pure, a health and wellness brand who believes in nutrition without the BS. And guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, I got news for you. We're going to do a live demonstration. We've got the energy packet right here. You see it because it says energy. This is a natural, jitter-free energy pre-workout supplement, and all I'm going to do is just mix it with some water. I got a bottle of water right here. Nice thing about the energy, when I said natural, jitter-free, I'm looking for a boost. Of course I'm looking for a boost. I want to have a good show for you guys and be dialed into the topics. I want to feel good about myself. I want to have all the essential amino acids. I want to have less sodium. Okay? I want a gluten-free product that actually tastes good, unlike most nutrition products on the market. And if you're watching this again on YouTube, I'm just doing a quick shake here. You can listen to it too. Could be driving. Is he shaking it? Yeah, I'm shaking it. I'm shaking the Live here. I'm shaking the energy. It's jitter-free. It's a pre-workout supplement. And what am I working out? My brain. I'm going to have a great day. I'm going to have a quick sip. I'm going to tell you how this tastes. Delicious. Utterly delicious. One serving, 20 nutrients. Like I said, amino acids. And why do we use amino acids? Because electrolytes just simply aren't enough for rapid rehydration. I can't tell you that, guys, enough. People say electrolytes, that's plenty. It's not. It's not plenty. You need the amino acids. That's because they're important for peak body performance that your body can't produce on its own. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to crush this Live Pure. Then we're going to get back. We're going to have a great show. You guys will be like, man, Carl, I feel like the second half of the show, he's so dialed in. It's because it's a Live Pure. It's because I just had a little recovery packet. It's because I had a little bit of an energy packet here. If you want to taste, go to livepure.com. Use code STARTING9 for 25% off your entire order. That's 25% off your entire order if you just go to livepure.com. use code STARTING9. Everybody's talking about hydration packets, guys. Why not use the best ones on the market? Use ones 25% off. Use Live Pure. Go to livepure.com. Use code STARTING9 for 25% off your entire order. Let's get back to the show. All right, we're now joined by the Yankee boys from Short Porch, Tommy Smokes, Hubs. Thank you guys very much for coming on. How are the vibes across the Yankee world, I suppose?
Good right now. I'm weirdly confident heading into the playoffs. I am usually pretty down on this team. I'm known for being more negative. I especially was at points this season. Right now, for whatever reason, I feel pretty good. I think maybe part of that is watching the Mets lose has really juiced me up, has really got me in the right mindset watching playoff baseball this weekend. I think the Guardians are beatable, and I kind of have a feeling the Mariners could beat the Astros. And to me, there's just some magic around this Yankee team right now. And I have a weird amount of confidence in them, more than I expected I would a couple months ago.
I was saying this to you guys before we hit record. It's a weird feeling being in the Yankees haven't thrown a pitch yet in the postseason. Blue Jays, Rays, Mets already out. Red Sox didn't make the play. It's all those people have turned already to the Yankees can't win the World Series mode, which is usually doesn't hit till the ALCS or whatever. Like those teams just completely bowed out immediately. So that's just a weird feeling. Good vibes there. The oldest Chapman news, which I'm sure we'll get into. Fantastic news yesterday. I was so happy when I got that news. I was terrified he was going to make the roster. He's gone. We've got Matt Carpenter, Barry Bonds 2.0, back, ready to go, taking swings, homering off Nestor, ripping doubles off Sevy and live BP. Listen, I'm cautiously optimistic because I've been hurt so many times in the recent years, but I feel good right now. That could all change tomorrow after one pitch from Garrett Cole, but I feel good right now.
Well, I don't understand why you guys are so nervous going into it. You guys are in great position. It's a quick turnaround for the Guardians. You guys are in good position. The whole Aroldis Chapman thing bothers me. I know you said it's really good news, but just from like a teammate's perspective, I don't know if they were going to be counting on him as heavily anyways, but dude, you got to show up to the fucking workout. That's one of the most selfish things I've ever seen. You talk about Carpenter, getting him back is enormous for you guys, especially like the way the lineup has struggled a little bit outside of Judge, a couple bright spots there. It's huge to have that left-handed bat against some of these Cleveland arms. Cleveland's scary though. They are a scary team. But as a Yankees fan, you guys are well rested. Y'all are prepared. You got Garrett Cole on the mound game one. You should maybe be a little nervous,
I'm not
but I like the
scared of the Guardians. Like the Guardians could beat the Yankees for sure, but the Guardians aren't a team that instills much fear in me. Like they're not. I think the Yankees are a more talented team. I think the Guardians' offense, as we saw this weekend, is definitely not that good. The pitching is good. McKenzie, Bieber, their bullpen, but the Yankees were 5-1, I believe, against Cleveland this year. I think they swept them in New York. So I know the Yankees can beat them. They beat them a couple times in the playoffs these past 5 years. I know it's a different team, but I'm not like if the Yankees lose this series, I think it'll be more them beating themselves than the Guardians beating them. It'll be blown leads from the bullpen, which is kind of shaky right now. The offense is just liable to go cold for long stretches at any point. But I think right now the Yankees' own worst enemy is themselves. If they play how they should play, I think they'll handle the Guardians in 3.
The nervous factor is these are all going to be very tight, low-scoring games, and that's just like not fun for a team that's in the postseason because McKenzie has already pitched against them this year, shoved against them. I've seen them hit Bieber before, but he looked the best I think he's looked all year in that playoff game against the Rays. Quantrill's no slouch, and obviously Clase at the back end of the bullpen, and they have scrappy, timely hitters that are a devil in the postseason. I'm not overlooking the Guardians whatsoever. I will say though I'm happier to play them than the Mariners. I think the Astros get the short end of the stick there. But I'm ready for a tight, low-scoring series, and it all starts with Garrett Cole, obviously. So God help us all there.
What's the rotation setup? So obviously Garrett Cole 1, Cortez 2.
Severino 3. Probably throw Cole. I think with the days off, you can go Cole regular rest game 4, and then you're looking at Nestor all hands on deck, short rest game 5 if need be.
So you bring up the ALDS rest. Do you agree that it's suspicious the MLB gave the ALDS as much rest as they did?
It's weird. I don't know if it's suspicious.
Yeah. The
I think
game. I always look forward to not look forward. I'm looking ahead to the game 4, game 5, no off day, like travel day, like the travel day. That's just chaos right there. That's all I'm looking at. I didn't see it as suspicious though.
I do hate the off day between games 1 and 2 because it's like when game 1 starts, when the playoffs start, I just want to be locked into playoff mode. The fact that we're going to amp up Tuesday, have a day off Wednesday, then amp back up Thursday, day off Friday, amp back up Saturday, it's going to be hard to get in that rhythm. And that's just as a fan. So I imagine for the players, it's probably similar. I'm thinking more selfishly as just in terms of rooting for the team.
Snake, please tell me. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they should have extended that. They shouldn't have a day off in between 1 and 2. They should have had that before game 1. It just makes more sense. I don't like the day off in between game 1 and 2 either. I think that the teams that had to play in the wild card were already at a slight disadvantage, and then they have to come back on short rest. I mean, obviously the teams that won game 1 and 2 had a little bit more time, not much. I don't know if it's suspicious, but I would have liked to see them work in at least one more day.
What do we make of Severino
DS
coming
series.
back? By the way, I know his his last start against the Rangers, it was 7 innings of no hit ball.
As good as you can get. Yeah.
About as good as you can get. But it was his third start back since mid-July, since before the All-Star break. So a lot of people are like, how the hell could you take this guy out? He's got a no-hitter going. It was only his third start, obviously at the timing of the season and stuff. So coming in, are you guys feeling, generally going into this season, what was the expectations for Severino? Obviously not missing as much time as he did, but like, where are you guys with him now?
It was good to see, like, I just hadn't seen him start in so long. Last year, you got a tail end, like the bullpen at the very end, and it was great. But you obviously didn't see him start. You're like, oh, can he do it? Obviously, to make it through a full season, but he's here, and he couldn't look better, as we just said, in that last start against Texas. The fastball was just flying out of his hand effortlessly. When he's cooking, it's so beautiful to watch because like he just does it so effortlessly with his command, his velocity, his disgusting wipeout pitches. So, man, he's a good 3. He's as good of a 3 I feel like as you can have in the playoffs right now.
I'm looking at the numbers here. I think it's important context for the audience to understand here. 17 and 18 last 2 full seasons, top 10 Cy Young finishes, all-star, made 31 and 32 starts respectively, was just absolutely filthy and dominant, like no really other way to put it. 19 injured, 20 COVID, didn't play at all last year through 6 innings. This year just hit over 100 innings for the first mark. So X Factor, anybody? Nobody?
Yeah, I mean, it's only health for him. Like, it's literally just health. If he's healthy, he's awesome. I mean, this year, his numbers, he had just a tick above 3 ERA. Like, he's healthy right now, clearly, because you can't have that start against the Rangers if you're not in pretty good game shape. So I feel really good about him, and he's been good in the playoffs. He had the one dud against the Twins in the Wildcard game in 2017, but then he bounced back really well with a gem against Cleveland in like game 3 or 4 that year. Pretty good against the Astros. He's a big game pitcher. He's a guy that I trust handing over the ball to in a big game. So having him back healthy is huge.
My only fear with him is he's a much better home pitcher than he is on the road, and they do have him lined up to pitch in Cleveland. That's just nitpicking, I guess.
He also feels like a guy the midges could get to.
Yeah, and that's happening this week.
Yeah,
of course. But yeah, I'm happy he's healthy and ready to go.
Well, you know what, guys. I think that, and you guys know this. If Severino is healthy, you pretty much have 3 number ones, and Cole, Cortez, and Severino. I think the X factor or the biggest part of the series is who's going to neutralize the star of each team the best. Jose Ramirez and the Guardians, and Aaron Judge with the Yankees. If you can control the damage done by either of those guys, I think whoever does a better job as a team.
I don't hate that logic, and that is an X factor. There's 3 to me keys of this series. Garrett Cole, who are we getting? Are you showing up? Are you going to be this guy who gives up 1 billion home runs, or are you going to shove like the guy we pay you to be? It's the bullpen because they don't have a closer, and that's terrifying. That's just the first time I think in my lifetime they've gone into the playoffs without a defined closer. And the other one is, can the people hitting around Aaron Judge get on base, hit the ball, drive him in? Because if you saw what happened as he was chasing 62, people are pitching around him. And when you pitch around him, like, they don't mind giving him first base. You got to make them pay. So that's Gleyber Torres. That's maybe Matt Carpenter. That's Giancarlo Stanton. Those guys need to come through. That's a major X factor to this series. The guys hitting 3, 4, 5 have to make the Guardians pay for pitching around Judge if they choose to, and they should, because if you pitch to him, you'll get hurt.
The Yankees, if you look at like their past postseason failures, it's pretty much because their offense stops hitting like that. They just shut down. They don't hit with runners in scoring position. It's incredibly frustrating to watch. So that's the number one thing is get guys on base, hit with runners in scoring position. But like Hub said, my biggest concern is the bullpen, which I feel like is backwards. Where I remember 2018, 2019, it was, all right, the Yankees don't have the best starters. Let's just get like 4 innings out of a starter, and then we'll piece it together with like Chad Green, Tommy Kahnle, like all these names of the past. Now we basically need every starter to give like 6 innings minimum. I don't think we're going to see Aaron Boone play the game of, we don't want these guys to see the Guardians order for a third time around. I'd rather leave a starter in too long than pull them too early this series, just based on where the bullpen's at.
Yeah, it's just minimum. Like, you trust Efros, you trust Loizaga. You pretty much trust Trevino. That's kind of it. And the health, he hasn't pitched in so long. That's the thing. It's like he's been silent. I assume he's going to be. They haven't announced the rosters yet. I think they will in like an hour or two. I expect him to be on there. But those are the 3 like guys. And Wandy, if he's healthy, he's gotten big outs. But Ron Marinaccio, big injury, not there. Thankfully, and we touched on this before, Chapman is just not here because I was so scared. Like, with them being thin, they were going to by default put him on the roster just by being a body. But I guess he got the hint that he wasn't going to be on the roster, and then he just flew to Miami. He's like a fucking scumbag. Yeah, and honestly, it's funny. When you give Brian Cashman a reason to bash you, he does. He does not hold back. And he basically did that. He was just like, yeah, this isn't surprising, really. Like, it's a little bit shocking, but it's not surprising. Like, we what he's done all year. And there was the tattoo debacle with him where he had, that was ridiculous. And he just hasn't pitched well. He was hurt or just, can't throw strikes. And when there's men on base, he gets completely inside his own head. He can't hold runners on. He's a disaster in the postseason. He's been obviously the reason, not the reason, but he's been the ender of their postseasons quite a bit in the last few years. His numbers overall as a Yankee are pretty good, but just in those big spots, it's always him smiling as someone's rounding the bases, and it's horrible. So I'm very happy I don't have to deal with that guy this year. Let's say that. And Clark Schmidt, I forgot to mention Clark Schmidt. Clark's been very good for the Yankees, and he will have a big end of the year. But yeah, the bullpen is a mystery.
Well, I do very much like the Guardians in the matchup. We've talked about it. I know you guys are more talented, but the resiliency of that team, the depth, the bullpen, I don't think they have any identity issues or really questions about how they have to show up and play to win. It's just a matter of if they can, out-execute the other team. Well, I think a lot of other teams at the top come in and they have the questions of, is this guy healthy? Who's going to hit around here, there, whatever. I think the
having
Guardians
the better
pretty much
manager
have
helps though too.
A tight identity, a very much tight identity. Jake, anything about the Yankees off the top of your head with the Guardians?
Yeah, well, I think the Yankees are going to have to take advantage of the Guardians' inability to score a lot, like runs in bunches, and they have the ability to do that. It's not going to be an easy task against Bieber and McKenzie, but they have the guys in place to do that. And if you can get 2-3 runs early in the game, I think that's going to be the key for the Yankees because the Guardians can't score runs. They don't have a tremendously talented offense. They have some guys in there. I mean, they have potential, or else they wouldn't be in the position they're in. But I think it's going to be up to the Yankees to score early. And if they can get 2 or 3 runs on the board early in the game, I think they'll be able to handle the Guardians. But if it stays very tight to the late innings, then I think
they
that's where
do
the
remind me a
Guardians,
little bit, worry me like the
get
2015 Royals, where they were just like contact, good pitching, beat the Mets in the World Series that year. That gives me a little pause, but I still do like the Yankees' chances. But I mean, yeah, I'm not. This isn't where I'm thinking. All right, we're walking in there, we're sweeping the Guardians. I think the Yankees should win, but obviously they do play a brand of baseball that plays in the postseason.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. We're like, playing with a lead is so important against a team like this because if you are up 2-0, 3-0 early, that feels like to them with their offense 8-0, 9-0, and especially if you can just hang up shutdown innings and zeros on the board, that just kills their confidence. You keep it tight, Then they're going to play small ball against you. Like the Yankees don't like to do that, even though when they do, it seems to work. But like also a key is, and Cole likes to do this, and it's going to be like Miles Straw hitting ninth, but like don't let the bottom of the order kill you, and that's what happened in the Mets Padres series. 7 through 9 murdered them. Like guys like Kim and Grisham and all that. So don't let Cole loves to give up homers to the 9-hitter. It just is.
I don't know about loves, but it is bound to happen. It seems like, or maybe it's just jump ahead with 2 outs and a fastball and.
Yeah, just like looking ahead, like oh, I'm just gonna get through here, and obviously and he likes to say that people hunt his fastball. That man has to shove. It's time. I'll give him a pass last year. Not many people like to do it. I just don't think his hamstring was anywhere near in good shape to throw in Fenway, but he gutted out and tried. But like this year has been very up and down. Obviously, leading the league and giving up homers isn't great. But he does have the shutdown stuff to just destroy a lineup. It always seems to be one inning with him. I think it's more mental than the sticky substance stuff. I think maybe it's a lack of that just he doesn't have the confidence anymore. But I need to see Bulldog Garrett Cole in Game 1. And he hasn't pitched at home in the playoffs yet. Obviously, 2020 was in San Diego, neutral site, and 2021 was on the road in Fenway. I'm hoping that the stadium crowd, something he's probably dreamed of pitching in his whole life, gives him the extra juice and jump to just destroy these guys. That's very, very exciting thought in my head. And I also think getting through that first inning is so big. If he can go 1, 2, 3 in the top of the first in Game 1, I feel absolutely fantastic. But like if he struggles a little bit, then that takes the whole wind out of the sails. But if he goes 1, 2, 3, few strikeouts there, I'm gonna be fucking screaming. I'll be nuts.
He'll be ready.
Hope so.
He'll be ready. It's fucking Garrett Cole, dude. Like,
you'd be surprised.
I mean, I probably wouldn't. I mean, he's fucking is big and good and nasty. Like you can't get bigger, nastier, and better. You'd have to go into a science lab and engineer a monster
for sure
to get a better looking, and I don't even know what it would look like to have somebody better and more impressive than Garrett Cole out there, because he does command the most electric fastball. Now, has he had? I'm going through his postseason starts from last year.
Well, it's just the one in Fenway last year. I have a question for Jake here about this. So, talking about the mental aspect of it, it wasn't a sure thing that Cole was going to be the one. Boone confirmed it on the Michael Kay show a couple weeks ago, then backed off of it and was like, it's up in the air. These last few days, it could have been Nestor. You never know. Maybe even Severino. And then eventually yesterday it was confirmed it will be Garrett Cole. But with that being up in the air and Cole kind of admitting in his media session, I get it. Does that affect the guy mentally that hey, you're not the defined Game 1 starter? We had to talk about this for a little bit, have some conversations, and then, we're giving it to you, but it wasn't a sure thing.
Well, but part of that is also how well Nestor Cortez has pitched. So, I mean, you want to be the bona fide ace. And maybe that's in his mind a little bit, but that should not affect any way, shape, or form the way that he comes out and pitches. It should be a good feeling that knowing as a Yankees fan that you guys do have a guy that's been pitching as well as Cortez has, and you have Severino who's healthy. But guys, you mentioned the first inning and coming out and setting the tone. Watch the command of his fastball. You'll be able to tell by the first 4 or 5 fastballs that he throws if he has his stuff dialed in. Because if he has his fastball command, he's going to be the Garrett Cole you guys are hoping to see. If he doesn't, if he's spraying the fastball around a little bit, the off speed is going to be way less effective, and guys are only going to target the fastball, and that's why he tends to give up home runs the way he does. He's got such a good fastball, you have to look for it. And if he's making mistakes with it over the heart of the plate, man, these guys hit fastballs. But if he's able to put it on or near the corner in the first inning,
why does that happen? Why is it one night,
you guys should be good to go.
Ace starter, one of the most talented pitchers in the world, been pitching his whole life. One night he has perfect control of the fastball, putting it where he wants. And how come there are just nights where it's all right, actually, you know what, he can't really control it, and they never are able to right the ship, it seems like. Just wake up on the wrong side of the bed?
Yeah, it's a really good question, man. Well, no, I mean, sometimes you're just not quite able to dial in the timing. I mean, when you're moving through your delivery, it's such a it's a borderline max effort, explosive movement. Sometimes your effort is applied a little too early, a little too late, or there's too much overall effort. And you just can't get it exactly right for whatever reason. I know it sounds weird, but there's a handful of starts every year where you're just shitty. That's just plain and simple. You're gonna have we usually say you have 10 where your lights out. You have 10 where your stuff's not very good. You got to make it work. And then you have 10 where they could go either way. And you can figure it out while you're out there. And that's what the best ones do is they get off track and they dial it back in. They talk to their catcher, they talk to the pitching coach, and they say, okay, I'm a little quick here. I'm a little slow here. But really the reason you'll see that guys can't pinpoint that timing or pinpoint their command is all due to timing. That's really what it comes down to, because if you're not in the right position when the left foot hits the ground and you're near your release point, if you're this much off, the ball could look, it could be a foot outside, a foot inside, or miss up or down. So that's really, the only thing that command comes down.
And I think there are some guys historically that
delivery.
do very well under where it's like they show up in the pressure in the moment, or maybe it's not the pressure in the moment, but the ability to get locked in. I've heard Jake, you and Dylan Cease were talking about this thing like flow state and how can you put yourself in this? Or Zach Galen's talked about to us before about like talking to doctors about getting his heart rate elevated because it's hard to get into a flow state or get locked in because he's naturally super chill. So it's been interesting to hear how different pitchers come in and out of this, but like a swing, it can look 1,000 different ways, but at the point of impact, it's the same thing with the pitchers. Like there's 1,000 different ways to get to it, but it seems like the crux, the point of impact is being able to get out there and get into like a state where you're in the most comfortable. Again, I'm going back to it. I don't even know what it means. Flow state?
Well, yeah, when Dylan Cease was in the middle of that run where he had, I don't know the number, 16 or something starts where it was like one run or less or whatever it was. He talked about, and I've alluded to it in the past, where you don't even necessarily remember it. Like you're just so dialed in, like it just happens. And once one game's gone, it's like completely out of sight, out of mind. It's on to the next one. And people ask me a lot about my no-hitter in LA, which I think was the best game I've ever thrown with stuff and command and movement. People ask me about certain pitches, and I'm like, I'd have to watch the tape. I don't remember it. I was just out there dialed in, fastball down the way, boom, slider here, and that was it. So you don't know why it happens exactly. You know what you're doing routine-wise to get into that mindset. And sometimes it lasts for 5 starts. Sometimes it can last for 15 starts. And that's all. That's what we're looking for as elite athletes and pitchers and in this game, is trying to figure out how to maintain that for as long as we humanly can. But there's no, I couldn't give you an exact answer of why it happens, and when we lose it, why we can't get back to it.
So then for Nestor Cortez, I think building off this, it'll be interesting to see him, because this will be his first taste of the fact he's even in a conversation to get a start ahead of Garrett Cole, whether he is crazy for that guy's career arc and everything. It's a credit to him, but he's a guy who relies on deception and being creative. And obviously he has an electric four-seam fastball, one of the hardest four-seam fastballs to hit in baseball. I'm not trying to take anything away from the talent that he has, but it's the way he sets the fastball up and the way he pitches and the command he delivers will be awesome, because that's a guy who can go out there if he's locked in, and it would make it harder for hitters too, because there's pressure's elevated on all sides. So I'd imagine the timing and the stuff he's able to do to throw hitters off should apply well in October if he can continue to command all his stuff in these situations.
I feel like he's just such a relaxed guy where I almost think I'm not going to say he's impervious to the pressure, but he's a guy that I think can maybe handle the pressure better than Garrett Cole. I mean, you watch Nestor starts, it just seems like he's having fun out there, which is like so cliche, but the way, he does his leg kicks and stuff, he's stuttering, like you can just tell it's a guy that just loves pitching, having fun out there, and I hope that he has that same mindset in a playoff game. I hope he doesn't, think, oh, the bright lights, Yankee Stadium, the national audience, like I better not fuck around with my leg kicks. And I want to see him being Nestor, the Nestor that I've loved since 2019 when he was a long reliever coming in and just throwing weird pitches, and now a top of the line playoff starter. He's always been the same guy. His stuff has gotten better. He's gotten better control, whatever the hell had happened that he unlocked to become this ace. But I want to make sure he's still like the fun-loving guy going out there, fucking around with hitters, getting in their heads. Because to me, that's a guy that, I love Nestor Cortez so much. And I also think one benefit of having him game 2 is that if the Yankees do lose game 1, I trust Nestor in game 2 to go out there and be solid and not let the pressure get to him. Where I think if the Yankees lose game 1, you have Garrett Cole game 2, a guy that's already feeling pressure from his bad playoff start last season, some tough starts this season. He's going to feel 100 times more pressure, whereas I trust Nestor to go out there and be Nestor.
I think that's exactly why they went. Well, okay. Well, Garrett Cole's obviously Garrett Cole, but that's a big reason for why they went the alignment they did. 2 things. One, I'm just so happy Nestor's in this position. You said his name, and I literally just got so happy. Like, I just smiled. Like, he's just the man, and like he deserves everything that's happened to him this year, and I hope he shoves. The other thing is, he is a nightmare for a team to adjust after a Garrett Cole type, like Garrett Cole, power fastball. You're just got a bulldog coming at you. And then you got to like adjust to a lefty who just throws this junk, and he has the great fastball as well. But it's just going to be hard for the Guardians to kind of just flip the script. Like, oh my God, we have to hit this guy now to like survive and maybe try and get a split here if Garrett Cole shoves. So he's a very, very dangerous number 2 for a team, and I'm happy he's our 2.
Amen, brother. Amen. Well, good luck to you guys. Yeah, good luck to you guys. I appreciate you guys spending time with us. I'm kind of I got the only thing I had left was Aaron Boone. I know that there's been some rough things said about him on the Short Porch podcast over the years, and so now I'm saying now that we're into the flow and stuff, because I have a belief that like managers are always going to piss people off, but like there's something about having your guy, and not everybody's Tito Francona. Not everybody's going to inspire generational play from people, but there is something. The next level to me is like having your guy. That's our fucking guy, and that's how Ozzie Guillen was with the White Sox for a long time. I don't know necessarily. I feel like the Cubs are getting to that point with David Ross where it's like, I don't give a shit. That's just our guy. Like, that's just the guy who manages the team for us, unless there was some crazy circumstance where there's somebody else more available. So that's kind of how I look at Aaron Boone. I look at him as one of those guys who's just like, dude, that's just who the Yankees have.
Oh, he is not.
I don't know if we're there.
Guy.
Okay.
He is
I don't
not
think
that
he's
guy.
going anywhere. I feel like he's just
No,
waiting.
he's
I just
not.
feel like
he's definitely not. They signed him. They locked him up. But I will say he's been better this year. I think he's been really good at, like, if Aaron Judge gets a bad call against him, he basically gets ejected like that, like the next pitch. So and he's gotten a better strike zone as a result. So sure, he's not at a that's our guy. That like no. I'm just praying we don't get an Aaron Boone moment in this series. That's what Yankee fans are at. Just manage a good game. Tito is going to be better than you, but just do your thing, stay in your zone, and don't just like get out of your own head. Just don't have an Aaron Boone moment is all we're hoping for.
I think Brian Cashman in the front office think that way. If this is our guy, Yankee fans, I can assure you, do not feel that way. I think that's also a product of just until you win a World Series with the Yankees. I know that sounds spoiled, but whatever. That's how Yankee fans are. Until you win a World Series as a manager, you're not going to get that lifelong devotion of like, he's our guy. I went into the season thinking I'm going to be more of a Boone guy, and he has for the most part been. I think he's managed well this year. Like I said, the ejections, he does seem to fire up the team. His bullpen usage has been better, but he's got to manage this series. And to me, managing this series well means, I'd hate to see IKF starting at shortstop, but I think that's just going to be happening anyway. But it's letting starters go the distance. It's not pulling the hook too early. If he pulls the hook too early and we have to get more innings out of this rundown bullpen that's filled with a bunch of question marks, that's going to piss me off. Have faith in your guys.
Yep. With that, I have one question for Jake. Obviously, you won a World Series with Rizzo. Talk to me. Just tell me, because last year, not exactly the Rizzo postseason, because it's one game. That's not. Talk to me how throughout a series Rizzo is going to steer this team in the right direction, as be that voice, be that guy, and just bring that championship blood to this team.
Yeah, well, I think that like that clubhouse has a ton of guys who have a lot of experience. So you can feel confident in that. And adding a guy like Matt Carpenter, he's also going to be one of the guys who can kind of rally the troops along with Rizzo and some of those other players. Carpenter, he's a championship player. Obviously, Rizzo is. he's really good about getting the guys together pre-game with a short, sweet message, just to kind of get everybody on board on the same page, ready to compete and get after it together. So yeah, I mean he's had his ups and downs, but man, there's not many guys that I would rather have at the plate than Rizzo in a big time situation, and the Yankees know that. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he puts together a little team meeting along with a guy like Carpenter and just gets the boys fired up.
I would pay so much money to be a part of, just be a fly on the wall for that. I
would
forget
too.
because I said Rizzo. You forget Carpenter. I mean, you don't forget, but he just hasn't been part of the team the last few months. You forget he's a World Series champion as well. Like he's just here. So that is,
Yep.
that got me fired up. I'm good for that.
It's gonna be a hell of a series, boys.
Amen.
And a great mustache, no less. Couple good. Couple good. What did you call them? Dick brooms. Thank you, Jay. Couple good dick brooms in that clubhouse. Well, good luck, guys. We'll be talking. Well, hopefully, we'll be talking again soon. Even though I did pick the Guardians at the start of the postseason at 33-1, I said I do very much like their chance because I think they're hard to beat, but the Yankees are significantly. They got a better team. So good luck to you guys.
Appreciate you, Carl.
All right, those are the Short Porch Boys. You can check out their podcast on the Barstool Network. They're big-time Yankee fans, if you couldn't tell. We also want to thank Whatnot, a great partner of the show of Starting Nine. If you haven't heard of Whatnot, it's a live stream auction app where you can buy collectibles, comics, and really almost anything else. They bring businesses and people together through commerce where sellers can host live streams and engaged connoisseurs like yourself can bid in real time. With live streams happening 24/7, you never know what you'll discover, and now Barstool is Whatnot's newest seller. We'll be going live on Whatnot, running live shows and selling never-before-seen auction items and Whatnot exclusives. We have some Whatnot stuff coming for the playoffs. Create a Whatnot account using the link in the description of the show and get $10 off your first purchase. And make sure you follow the Barstool Sports page to get alerted whenever we're going live. Like we said, guys, Whatnot, it is our premier #1 partner when it comes to live stream auctioning. Obviously, live streaming auction is a huge thing moving forward with how many cards we're going to be dealing with, packs, breaking, memorabilia, you name it. Go check it out. Create a Whatnot account using the link in the description. Get $10 off your first purchase. Make sure to follow the Barstool Sports page to get alerted whenever we're going live. Tons of shit going on with Whatnot, guys. Don't be the last person to figure it out. Okay, from Whatnot back to the Yankees, boys. I'm curious as a player. You are purely player side. Yankees fans have high expectations. Did you know that? Did you know it was like that?
I did know. I mean, I feel like most fan bases are very similar. I think that they're very well thought out. I do like what they were saying about having Garrett Cole game one and then having a game plan completely different for a guy like Cortez. And then you have Severino coming game three. So you got a guy in Cole, 95 to 100, hard breaking stuff. And you got Cortez with disrupts timing. Fastball has tremendous life through the strike zone, can elevate, big sweeping breaking ball from the left side. And then you have a guy like Garrett Cole that's coming at you again, game three. So heavy firepower, right-handed guy in Cole, Cortez, Funky, then Severino. It's set up well for them. They're getting Carpenter back. They're a little nervous about Cleveland, and rightfully so. Tremendously managed. But we talked about some of the X factors. Garrett Cole, Hubs mentioned Garrett Cole being able to set the tone early. I told him command of the fastball is extremely important. Recognize where his command is at early because that's going to set the tone. And then I think the X factor is the Yankees' ability to put runs on the board early. And they were saying if they can get a 2-3 run lead against the Guardians, it could seem like 5, 6, 7 runs because of, they don't have the most potent, offense. They have a good offense, but then again, it's going to come down to who can neutralize the star in the lineup more successfully, and Jose Ramirez with the Guardians, and obviously Aaron Judge with the Yankees.
It's a great point. And I do want to point out again, ever since Jose Ramirez, you pointed out the length of his arms and just his general stature, I'll never look at him the same way again. So, He is awesome. We have a couple other series previews I want to get to. And we're going to have Joe Maddon join the show in a little bit. We talked to him last week. How was that for you? He didn't know that you were going to be on the other end.
I guess he didn't. No, I mean, it's good to hear, Joe playing a lot of golf. He preaches, hobbies and having other interests outside the game. It's good for the mind. It's good just as a human being well-rounded and having something that can kind of take your mind off of the grind of a 162 game season. We all need that. He's a great manager. He's like a life coach, a sports psychologist, and a therapist, kind of all in one. So, wherever Joe ends up, he will be well received, and the group that brings him on board will be extremely lucky to have him. Can't say enough good things about Joe. Obviously it didn't go well with Anaheim this year for whatever reason. I don't really believe that Joe had much to do with that. I just think that the Angels kind of stink.
I think that's fair. I think the Angels do kind of stink, and and it sounds like in the conversation that we'll have, we're going to get to it in a minute. I still want to talk a second about these other matchups, but there is a great point there where he talks about lessons learned from the 2019 season with the Cubs, and I wonder how much that lesson impacted his relationship with the Angels when things started to turn a little bit in May. Did that influence his response to what the Angels were saying or whatever those conversations looked like? We'll hear about that from Joe in a second. But let's talk quickly. We did already say stuff about the Mariners and the Astros. I just want to circle back on this, get some predictions here. I do ultimately have the Astros moving on here. I think the Mariners give them a great series. I'm not saying it's 5 games, but I think at least there's going to be a couple punches thrown very heavily. The Astros lineup is so deep. It's just there are no extended stretches where you feel comfortable competing against the Astros, especially this time of year. They've just put together so many good quality at-bats, top to bottom, veteran guys that have been there, guys have been criticized, shit on. That clubhouse is very tight, us versus them. Dusty's done a masterful job with it. So it's just so hard to see teams going into that environment. It's rowdy as all hell. You got Verlander going game 1, backed by some nasty, filthy stuff. So it's just so hard to see anyone beating the Astros in a DS series.
It is, I think that Seattle's throwing. Who's going game 1 for Seattle?
I would suspect it's Logan Gilbert, but if it's not, it's got to be Louis. If it's not, then it's going to be Castillo because he would have the next amount of rest. But I would go Logan Gilbert 1, Castillo 2, Robbie
That's what
Ray
I was.
3.
Yeah, I was thinking that Castillo would probably go game 2. If Seattle can somehow find a way to win game 1, I think they can take the series. But if they lose game 1, you're going to have to see Verlander twice in order to win the series. I don't think that will happen. But let's see. I think if Seattle can find a way to win game 1, I think game 2, obviously with Castillo on the mound, that's a very winnable game. But it's hard to bet against the Astros. It really is. And with what Verlander has done, he almost threw another no-hitter towards the end of the year. His last start of the regular season, maybe. He's going to be ready. He's an all-time great. But again, any team is beatable.
Does that include the Dodgers?
I think the Dodgers I think they're definitely beatable. It's not, it's not likely, but look, if San Diego can do what they did against New York, if they can get the same sort of pitching from Yu Darvish, from Musgrove, I think they have a shot. But they're gonna have to pitch like that to have any shot at beating the Dodgers.
5-14 on a season against the Dodgers. I remember there's a stretch where they're just getting swept in the second half after the Juan Soto trade. So where you could look at that and say, but to me, this goes one of two ways. You could look at that and say, well, they don't play well against the Dodgers. The Dodgers have an edge. The other hand is, well, they've played 19 times, and it looks like the sample size is a little disparate. Like, it doesn't look like this is a team that would lose 5 out of 19 regularly. So if you play another 10 games, who knows? The pendulum could swing very easily back to the Padres.
Yeah, I mean, if you get a little bit more production from Soto, if Profar's swinging the bat well, Obviously, Machado is going to be dialed in and having good at bats. You just need more than one or two guys in that lineup to step up. Cronenworth is probably could be the X factor in that lineup. Manaea needs to pitch well for them. They're going to have to step up. They're going to have to get production from guys that they didn't in their regular season series with the Dodgers in order to win, and that's why they only went 5-14. Because guys like Soto, Cronenworth, Profar, I would assume wasn't swinging the bat as well. Their starting pitching probably wasn't matched, up against the Dodgers as well. I mean, they're without Buehler, which is a good thing. But I mean, they've just got so many weapons. It's hard to see the Dodgers losing this series to the Padres. But I mean, there are big time bright spots from the Wildcard series against the Mets. I mean, Darvish is disgusting, and Musgrove's going to build off of that start. So it can happen. It can happen. I can envision it happening. It's not likely. But the way the Padres played in that series should be promising for San Diego.
Especially getting as much production as they did from guys like Trent Grisham and Austin Nola and Jerks and Profar. Those are their three top performers in the lineup. And then you've got Machado coming up with big knocks. You've got Juan Soto willing to lay down a sac bunt in a 3-0 game up. Where people say, hey, that's a stupid play. Maybe not necessarily if Manny Machado is hitting behind you, dialed in, and the difference between a 3- and 4-run game. I did like the way that they came together, and your point, the starting pitching. Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish were dialed in. There's not a good chance that Blake Snell goes and pitches like that again in a second time out in the postseason. The fact is, this matter that they're not traveling that much, that San Diego and LA are that close? If you were a player, would you give a shit being like, yeah, it's a quick trip, or just because it's playoffs, adrenaline's high, you're not really paying attention at this point of the season?
I don't think that really plays any part in the series. I really don't. But you made a good point. I didn't even mention Trent Grisham. I mean, he had some huge hits. He had 500, I believe, in the wild card series. I think he had a couple homers. I mean, he went oppo, left center off DeGrom at 100 miles an hour, like on the corner away. If you're able to do that, like your swing's pretty dialed in. God, I mean, it seems like they're swinging the bats at the right time. I would like to see it at least be a really good series. I'd love to see this go 5 games. I don't know if it does. I think it probably only goes 4. But a 5-game series against these two would be really good for the game of baseball.
And the Padres away uniforms, this came up a couple times. What is that? Is that an off? It's like off gray. Is that like a brown gray?
It's like a brown or like a tan, yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't mind seeing the pink splash. I want to see some more of that. I love those alternates. The City Connect, the Padres City Connect, they're not going to wear those in the postseason, but those things are fucking fresh. Okay. A couple other things here just on the note. I do very much want to talk to Joe Maddon. Braves and Phillies. We talked at the top of this. We'll try and get out and see some of it. The Braves, the depth of their starting pitching is very disgusting, scary, terrifying. So good luck to both squads on that one.
Yeah, it's going to come down to. I mean, the Phillies are probably going to have a few long balls. They just need them to be with guys on base. That's how they're going to win this series. They're going to win the series with the long ball. They're going to need guys on base, ahead of their thumpers. Harper looked like he was taking some better swings against the Cardinals. Schwarber needs to connect. I don't love Schwarber in the leadoff spot. I just really don't. Gene Segura swinging the bat well. So if guys can get on base ahead of Hoskins, ahead of Castellanos, ahead of Harper, and they can lose one, this series can be close, but they're going to need guys on base.
We're very excited to have Joe Maddon join us now. He's got a book coming out, The Book of Joe. The book is out now. I'm sure we have a link in the podcast description. We're going to talk a little bit about the book, some of the lessons, some of the stuff that comes up. But like I said, it's just a great conversation this time of year. Get you two together, some reminiscing, some warm storytelling, so to say. A little step behind or a little peek behind Joe's life and kind of where he's at now with his career. Amazing career, Hall of Fame manager, in my opinion. And I have all these nice things to say for him. I didn't fucking play for him and accomplish any of the shit you did. So I can only imagine if I feel this way, what that clubhouse feels like about Joe. So.
Yeah, Joe's great. He was able to, break up the monotony of just coming to the field and, 8 hours before the game and going through routine and playing and then rinse and repeat. He was big about, getting the team together, team bonding, getting to know your teammates personally, having fun away from the field. And if you're able to do that, it makes showing up to the park every day a lot more enjoyable, whether you're, having success at the time or going through struggles. Because it's about managing those emotional roller coasters of, I'm way up here, nothing could go wrong, and then how to handle that on the flip side when you're not performing well, but you still got to show up for your team and be the best player you can, and find out how to get out of those slumps, because that's what the best players do. They go through periods where they're not very good, but they minimize it to the best of their ability. And get back on track. So Joe's a great guy to play for. And like I said before, wherever he ends up, that team's going to be lucky to have him.
Fuck yeah. Joe Maddon's sweet. Let's get to him. Like I said, Hall of Fame manager. Here's Joe Maddon. Okay, we're in the interview portion of today's show. We are joined by Joe Maddon. Joe, thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy running around. What's going on, brother?
I'm busy running around this golf course. I'm looking out at the third tee box here at my home course.
So you're on the course.
I'm on the course. I got the third fairway. The eighth green's right there. There's the ninth tee box. That's the first fairway, and over there is the second green.
Now, will you are you a guy that will go out there kind of at twilight, take a wedge, couple golf balls, barefoot, and kind of get out there, or?
I'm not your barefoot. I'm not like you with the bare feet, but I'll do that.
Okay.
Yeah. No, Jake, I'm right here. I got the driving ranges right down the street. So I'll just go out and play. I'll just go out and pick a spot and go out and play, come back, work on a couple things. But me and my boys have been playing nearly every day, and it's not going to stop. I mean, once the weather gets too cold here, I'm going to go to Arizona.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Well, thanks so much for jumping on with us today. We know big book's coming out today, covers your career, some time you had with Jake as well. How would you is this something you've been wanting to do for a while, just kind of popped up out of nowhere? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, well, I've been asked for years to do something like this. There it is. Look at that picture.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah, back when the Rays went to the World Series in 2008, that's when the requests started coming on board. I wasn't ready to do it at that point. I didn't think I had done enough in order to be the subject of a book. So wanted to continue on. I didn't want it just to be a book about baseball, that I grew up playing baseball. Actually, I grew up playing football, then I played baseball. I didn't want it to be that. I wanted it to be something greater than that. I wanted it to be able to appeal to leadership kind of folks, different industries regarding not just baseball. So it had to be more than that. My baseball career does not deserve accolades to the point you're going to want to read about it. So it had to include other things. And so put together like 100 hours of tape and got Tom Verducci on board. So it's been in the mental making for a while, but I'm pretty pleased how it showed up, how it came out based the tape that I gave Tom, but Tom's writing abilities are outstanding.
Well, and your ability to connect with not only people but players in a unique way is what really stood out to me. And the relationship that all of us were able to develop with you was really unlike any other manager, and it was refreshing. It was joy to come to the field every day, to pick your brain, and it's in your book a little bit about you played many roles, and one of those roles was obviously a manager, but kind of like a sports psychologist, and developing the right mentality. And we had, in Chicago, we were fortunate enough to have Ken Ravizza around us. And I know you had a really strong relationship with Ken. He did a lot of things for me, and it was more than just going over the mental side of the game and talking baseball all the time. And I know you're big on that. Like, kind of, if you're all baseball all the time, you're going to drive yourself crazy. And like Ken and I, and even conversations that we would have, a lot of times would have nothing to do with the game. And what was your experience with that, having other hobbies, other things to do to kind of distract you sometimes from when things on the field maybe weren't going as well as you wanted them to.
We all need diversions. 100%. We need diversions. And for me right now, my diversion is playing golf. For years, my diversion had been riding my bicycle. I rode my bicycle ad nauseum for years. I love to read books. I like to travel. You need diversions. You just can't get locked in, especially our game. It will drive you absolutely insane because you have so much failure to deal with. You need somewhere to park it during the game or park it right after the game. That's the best way I could describe it. I'm grateful. I have a great background regarding education. Went to Lafayette College, and have been influenced by so many wonderful people. And I became such an avid reader. So all that stuff to me permitted me, and I appreciate what you said, Jake, because that was part of it. It had to be more than just baseball. And your and I conversations were a lot about anything but baseball. We talked about everything, and I love that about working with you too. So it's just it's where I came from. It's how I grew up. And again, I think by going to such a good school like I did and meeting the people that I did, being challenged in other areas like I was, led to the point where when I became a major league manager, I just did not want to do it like everybody else had done it because, quite frankly, that's part of tell me what you think, not what you've heard. So much of our game is passed down, which I love. I love it. But it gets to the point sometimes where it prevents creative thinking or stretching it a little bit because we get lazy with our minds. We just rely on what people have told us. And I did not want to be that guy. So that's all interconnected, and that's exactly where I came from.
What's the general appeal to you of managing and coaching baseball? You spent so much time in the dugout. Whether your legacy obviously speaks for itself, but it just took forever for that to get started. What was that process like?
Great. The struggle is the best. Struggling is good. Making mistakes is awesome. That's how you get to the point where you're not afraid to making mistakes. I'm so grateful that it took me so long to become a major league manager. All the different jobs that I did, started as a manager when I was 27 in Idaho Falls. And then I became a roving instructor. I became a coordinator. I coached a hitting coach. I was a catching coach. I was a base running coach. I was a scout. My background really permits me to think the way I think. If you've not been exposed to all these different things, how could you have these thoughts? So that's part of what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful that it was 51 when I got the job as the manager with the Rays. I've always thought this too. I never want something before it's my time to have anything. So when I got the job, I felt I truly had earned it and that I could speak freely and frankly about what I thought because this was tried and true. I've been through it. It's not like somebody handed me a sheet and said, we want you to talk about this or want you to set up your drills like this. Or when you look at a picture of young Jake Arrieta, what do you think of him? I scouted. I set up, I did all that stuff. So grateful, man. When you're involved in the struggle, don't be too upset because that's going to be as you look back, it's going to be the best time of your life.
Well, what do you remember from those first times scouting, Jake?
I saw him with Baltimore. The big thing with Jake was I couldn't believe the arm. I said, God damn, this is some kind of arm. And by the fourth or fifth inning, you'd get him. Early on, untouchable. Until he really developed his command and learned how to pitch like he did. You just had to ride out the first couple innings, but the stuff was incredible. Oh, it was incredible. And I always thought he'd be great, which he turned out to be, but he had to get past those hurdles. Then when I see him in Chicago, Jake, this is in the book. I don't know how you feel about it, but that game in Minnesota when I let you go 8 innings and you threw a complete game shutout in Minnesota, that's kind of like the mark from then on because I got crap after that game for letting you in an 8-0 game go and pitch 9 innings and throw 120 pitches or 19 pitches. A lot of guys weren't happy with me, but I tried to explain to them that is a moment, that's a seminal moment where it can transform some young guy's career because once you've learned how to do that, then you know how to do that and you can replicate it and you want to. You salivate for it. And that's missing in our game now. Young starting pitchers aren't salivating to be out there for that third out in the 9th inning, and I'd like to see more of that.
Well, it seems like so many guys now are just conditioned to not have those types of expectations, but you're exactly right. Being able to go out there and compete in the ninth, and this is the highest level of sports, whether it's 8-0 or not. That's what, and a guy of my physicality, my size, my strength when I was playing, I mean, an extra 10, 15 pitches weren't going to do anything for me to not be able to recover and pitch my following start. And I think too many times people try and take that experience and that opportunity away from us. Unfortunately, you're a guy that will kind of allow that if the situation dictates that it's the right thing to do. How frustrating can that be for not only for you, but players have to, they think that it's always your decision, but you're obviously under tremendous pressure, and other managers are under tremendous pressure to do certain things. Do you think that there's too much involvement with people outside of the dugout, and it's gotten to a point where it's almost impossible for you to do your job the best way possible?
Right on.
I mean,
yeah, absolutely. What you're saying right there, the line that it's in the book is that I don't want to get in the way of your greatness. Too many people are interfering with other people's greatness, potential for greatness, by putting limitations. So that's always been part of my gig. I could go back to the minor leagues, and I could tell you about the time that Hilly Hathaway threw a complete game in Palm Springs, and how that jettisoned his career. Everything is too scripted, everything is too dictated, and it doesn't need to be. Yes, there's too many people trying to influence the clubhouse or the dugout during the game that shouldn't. I mean, there should be more of a separation of power where everybody's got a job to do. You got to trust each other and do your job. You're hired to do a certain thing, specific thing. We're talking about a manager. Quite frankly, there was times that the voice got me a couple times in the back of the head, but for many years it never did. It's just more recent that the voice has gotten louder. When I first started with the Rays, and even though Andrew and I had some really heated, great conversations, Andrew always permitted me to do what I wanted to do, and we would talk about it afterwards. And Theo, same way. The only time it changed a little bit was in that last year in Chicago, where things became a little bit different, and I kind of retreated a little bit, quite frankly. I thought maybe I was wrong. But it's true. Base managers need to be able to manage, not become a middle manager, not carrying out the script written for them by somebody else. The game has so much nuance involved in it. There's so many things that change during the course of the game, and there's things that nobody has the feel for it, the influence for it, unless you're right there. You don't. You cannot be sitting hundreds of feet away and actually understand what's going on in that particular. You can't, and that's why I stand on the top step of the dugout, because I think if you sit inside, you lose that sixth sense, that feel that's absolutely necessary to make good decisions. So, Jake, 100%, I agree with you. I'm all for collaboration, but I don't like interference.
And what is there just like an example or something that pops to your head in your last season with the Cubs? You're like, man, if I could do it differently, or here's something where I thought I was right.
Well, this part of it was the pregame. I mean, all of a sudden we needed to take more batting practice, and even to the point where we're hitting before games in the day game, which I was totally against. 15, 16, 17, and 18 went extremely well. I mean, you could say all you want about losing a wild card game to the Rockies in that 18, but look what led to that. The end of the season, and we played like 40-something out of 40, 42 out of 45, whatever days, and then Brewers get extremely hot, and we fight, and you lose a game like that, and all of a sudden you're no good anymore. We went to 3 NLCSs consecutively. That's not easy to do, and one of them is a World Series. So yeah, it could become frustrating like that. So I relented on some of my pregame stuff. Even in Anaheim more recently, there was a meeting every day with the hitters, and I didn't like that as an example. I think that's a little bit too much. My thought is that meetings are for presenters, conversations are for teachers, and you could only absorb sitting in a room so often. I hate them. I don't need meetings. I need them once in a while, but the way this thing works right here that we're using, I get my PDF file in the morning, and it tells me all about the St. Louis Cardinals. everything I need to know. And if I have any other questions, I could either text or pick up the phone and say, listen, this isn't clear. Or what I do, I used to walk into the video room right next to the manager's office in Chicago. I'd say either to Nate or Brad, I'd say, listen, this isn't clear. Could you show me a video? Boom, boom, there it would be, and then I would be clear. That's the process that I like. It gets too convoluted, too many people involved, not necessary, and I'll shut up. The biggest part of analytics to me, the superstar component of analytics to me is acquisitional, and nobody ever talks about it. How do you look at the Dodgers? The Dodgers, Andrew's a classic example, how to utilize that stuff and put together a group of guys so that in season if somebody gets hurt, they bring somebody up that you've never heard about. That's really a good baseball player. Depth. Pitchers benefit. The other superstar is defense. It goes from acquisitions to defense to pitching. Pitchers get some good info on that. Hitters get nothing, I don't think. And that's it. But everybody thinks these games are being influenced by analytics, and that's like so important. It's not. It's the least important thing that happens before the game.
I agree with you, Joe. And one thing that I loved about you is that you had your big thing was like we had 3 meetings. We have a spring training meeting. We had one what was it, after the All-Star break, and then one before the first playoff game.
I changed it before the All-Star game.
Okay, before the All-Star game, and then before the first playoff game. And you let you helped create the culture, but then you let the players kind of dictate if something needed to be said. We handled that. We took care of that. We all had our own little individual meetings, our pitchers meetings, things like that. But if you're having too many meetings every day, they lose value. They just don't mean as much. So I love that you did that. And you brought up, the development side. You talked about a team like the Dodgers. What do you think it is about, let's say, the Dodgers, the Braves, the Cardinals? Like, how do they just keep bringing these guys up? Like you said, someone you've never heard of, but who's ready to perform at the big league level, and they just keep moving. Like, how are they so well adapted to be able to do that?
Scouting is number one. Nobody even talks about it anymore. It's scouting and player development. I mean, that's why teams are good. That's why they could be good. I mean, the Dodgers spend a lot of money, but they have these really inexpensive replacement parts. So with the Dodgers, I know Andrew, and I told Andrew when he was like the second year doing, I said, Andrew, you're a good scout. We'd sit there and talk about players. He could break down a player. He can see things. Andrew, you're a good scout. And that's whenever I see these guys come up with, the last name is looks like the alphabet, then they play well. That's Andrew doing his thing. The Cardinals, probably one of the last vestiges of doing it right, because they teach baseball. They teach baseball. When their guys come up, they're not analytical mavens all the time. These guys come up, know how to play the game. They run hard to first base. They make good turns. They take guys out at second base. They catch the ball. They work good at bats. They use the whole field. And they're pitchers. I got Flaherty, like the kid, I'm just upset. He reminds me a lot of you, Jake. Kid Flaherty that got hurt. He keeps getting hurt. But that guy there is a great athlete that happens to be a pitcher. So the Cardinals are good and have been good because they scout and teach baseball well. The Braves are kind of a throwback right now. I mean, I know Alex really well, not really well, but I know Alex and how he does things. But then you got Snit and that whole group there. I know firsthand that these guys are able to utilize information and analytics, but they're teaching good old-fashioned baseball, and look at their scouting.
And it doesn't always. Everyone looks at the huge market teams that have the most money to spend at free agency. You're talking about scouting and also player development. So, is it just that there's not that many high quality scouts? Like that's something that's that hard to do? I mean, because you would think, like, Joe, you go to a game, you'd be like, okay, that guy can play, this guy can play, and then there's levels to that. There's more layers to scouting. But why? It's like teams, the small markets, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, so on and so forth. Why are they not scouting well? Or is it just they won't spend money? I mean, because they do have good players, but
No, they do. I mean, they have scouted well. They
Yes.
have. I agree with you. There's a lot of good players in all those pipelines. A part of it, a lot of the boots on the ground scouts are gone. A lot of this is done technologically, video wise, and there's not as many people evaluating who we're going to select. It really comes down to that. Who has the best eye, too? I mean, like I said, Andrew is a good scout. He doesn't miss. He does not miss on guys. He just doesn't miss. He sees things that some other guys don't necessarily see. So I think I can't speak for all these places, but I could tell you I've seen a lot of good young players. But I even know for a fact with the Angels, as an example, before I got there, they weren't even teaching bunting and base running in the minor leagues for several years. That wasn't part of the program. What's happening is, and this is something I wanted to get done, I want iconic coaches and managers on the minor league level, somebody to pass the game along. The game is not being passed along. The way this is being run right now is that if you're a minor league coach or manager, you're getting information from the major league team, the analytical department, and this being sent down to you, and you're presenting this to players. This is their instruction primarily. There's nobody there really. Listen, I had the best. There's nobody there presenting or teaching all this stuff. I had Bob Clear. I had Marcel Latchman. I had Ben Hines. And these guys, and I had Preston Gomez, and I had Don Zimmer. I mean, these guys are influenced by guys that I'm Kevin Bacon. I go all the way back, man. You know, and that doesn't happen anymore. And that's where we got to be careful. There's nobody passing these games along to the guys that are coaching in the minor leagues right now. It's being presented to them, but they're not learning anything that had been taught before in a method that we're continuing this process of teaching the game properly. That's what I think. Now, the scouting end of it, there's a lot of teams have got rid of their scouts. Rick Engels and I are good friends. Rick was with me with the Angels for years, and he and I, we play golf. We talk all the time. Everybody's getting fired. Nobody's getting hired. And there's an ageism component to this too, where if you get a little bit older, they don't want these older scouts, and that's exactly who they need. So there's all of these different things contributing to it. But I would love to be part of the next organization that does all that. You hire a lot of old scouts back. You get the best minor league instructors. You develop a method or way of playing the game, and it's brought to you every day. And I think I'm describing the St. Louis Cardinals right now.
Well, that's fair. I mean, they simply don't slow down. And I'm hearing this correctly. You do want to get back. Is it managing? Is it more as a leadership capacity? What do you see?
I would love to manage with the right people.
Yeah.
I need real baseball. I need baseball complemented by analytics, not analytics being complemented by baseball. I mean, that's what it's devolved to. Again, you listen, you watch, you talk, you think that analytics won the game last night or information won the game last night. It's all about players. It's a player's game. It's a really hard game. It's hard to be great at this game. It's easy to make mistakes. It's easy to suck. It's very hard to be great. And you think that just a mathematical equation is going to put somebody over the top? Come on. You need it to be taught properly, redundantly, aggressively, with accountability. That's how you get good baseball players. And get rid of the three true outcomes. And you do that by compensating things other than home runs, as an example. And the young pitchers, all they're trying to do is spin the ball at the top of the zone and throw as hard as they can. Jake throwing the hard as he did, unbelievable other stuff. He's a greater version of Kyle Hendricks. I mean, Kyle and Jake, this incredible movement on the ball, they did it differently, but kind of the same. And that's not what's being sought after. You have to throw harder and harder to be, because everybody wants swings and misses. They don't want the ball in play, because the ball in play is an enemy.
What do you think about some of the rule changes that are going to be put in place next year? You think they push the game in a bit better of a direction, or are there certain things about it you don't like?
I do like a lot the clock. I do. I think that's the one rule. That's the only rule I've wanted to be implemented since the beginning of changing rules. I think the eradication of the shift, I don't think that's going to give you what you're looking for, if you're just looking for more offense, absolutely will be, because you're going to see more left-handed hitters pulling the baseball, I think. It does not promote the contact hitter. I still fail to see why you're drawing this conclusion that there's going to be more contact hitters with only two guys on each side, because the contact hitter has never been shifted in the first place. The defenses that are in place forever or have been in place are still going to be in place, and there's nothing to be benefited. You're still going to elevate or pitch hard away a slappy kind of right-handed hitter and bring your right fielder in tighter and have your pitcher throw to your defense, and it's going to be hard for him to do anything else. So that's not it. So the bigger bases, we'll see. I really don't like the runner on second base, and I really don't like 3-batter minimum. So when you want to start criticizing managerial decisions, you have to start thinking in clumps of 3 now when you bring your pitchers out of the bullpen. And there's always going to be one matchup in there you hate, and there's going to be a matchup in there you can't avoid. And runner on second base, after you've fought for 9 innings, all of a sudden we want to be expeditious. We're going to just decide it right now. Be expeditious by enforcing that 15-second or 20-second clock. Enforce it. Make the guy get on the mound. Make him pitch the ball. Make the batter get in the box. That will eliminate all these issues about being there a little bit too late.
Right. I think putting the guy on second base just takes away from the game way too much. Like you said, and all they're trying to do is make the game shorter. I know that they're trying to play shorter games, so maybe there's less injuries, there's less guys being used on the mound, but it just doesn't look like baseball. It kind of ruins that aspect for me. But I'm
It's awful. It's awful in the dugout, Jake. It's awful in the dugout.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. And one more thing: is there anything that you would add or incorporate, either a new rule change or just a way to enhance the game? Because personally, for the longest time, I thought eliminating the shift was basically telling guys at the highest level that you're not good enough to make adjustments. But I can see the other side as well. I think averages are going to go up for power hitters. I think that's a good thing. But I've been trying to think of other things we could potentially do to make it better. I'm not as smart as you. You have anything else you would add?
Well, no, I honestly, the one thing I wanted is the pace clock. I thought that was the one thing that do that first, and then we'll see how that works out. And then I think by doing that, that's going to elicit different ideas that you may want to incorporate that'll be subtle and not dramatic. I mean, even like when you go back to the pitcher out of the stretch, you can only throw twice to first base. I mean, things like that, I just don't get. And furthermore, guys aren't going to steal more bases, I don't think, unless front offices are on board with it. Because I still think analytically, there's going to be a lot of people that don't want to see that. And number 2, you got to compensate the big base stealers, because they're putting their body at risk more than anybody. The guy that's going to look at Ricky Henderson, all those guys. So if you want whatever you want in the game, compensate for it. And even to the point where there's like a league-wide fund that the player draws from, not necessarily maybe an organizational fund, but a league-wide fund to like the base stealing champion gets this kind of money at the end of the year as a bonus, as an example. Then you'll get guys running. Otherwise, if front offices don't buy in, it's going to be the same old look.
Joe, thanks so much for spending time with us today. The Book of Joe is out Tuesday, October 11th. The story you talk about with Jake Arrieta starts on page 209. Not that I was paying attention or taking notes, but it's so much fun to spend time with you. I can't wait to see where you land. It warms my heart to know that you very much want to get back in the game, keep changing it. The influence you've had on the game to my generation is outstanding. You're such a warm presence in the game, and thanks so much for spending time, guys. Go check out this book, The Book of Joe, October 11th.
Appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, Joe.
Jake, it's awesome to see you, man.
Great seeing you. Glad you're playing a lot of golf. We'll try and connect and play some at some point, maybe when you get to Arizona, when it warms up. And thanks for the book. It's going to take me a while to read this, but I am going to get it done.
Thank you, man. Best to your family, too, all right?
Thanks, man.
Let the record show, I don't know if this made it into the interview, but he did start off the top. He's like, "Oh yeah, Carl, you hit the golf ball you hit the golf ball well." I like that. I enjoyed that.
You know that it made it into the interview. It's one of the first things he said. Yep. I'll be the judge of that. We'll play some.
No, that is great. I hope Cubs fans that have come into this, they probably saw the news that you and Joe were talking. They enjoyed the interview. Hopefully you guys stick around, subscribe to the show. Any nostalgia, anything at this point through the first weekend that makes you miss?
Not really. Well, I mean, being on the top step in a playoff game, or being competing on that stage. That's definitely something that you miss. But I did it enough times. It would have been nice to do it a few more. Yeah, that ship has sailed, though. I enjoy watching. I definitely enjoy watching. A lot of great games are going to be available for us soon. So I'll live through those guys. My time was enjoyed, and now we're moving on.
Hey, good eye. I like that one. That was a good one. If you guys aren't watching our streams, tune in. You'll learn some of the baseball lingo we're throwing around there. But no, it's seriously the amount of matchups that we have in front of us, the amount of analysis, just good times we'll be having watching these games. This is why I give a fuck in June. This is why I'm like walking around in May being like, well, you don't know what the bullpen's going to shape up. Like all this stuff, it just comes to a head here. Like if you're willing to give a fuck about baseball in June and July and God, August, who cares in August? After trade deadlines and teams are starting to settle in, you just have like 3 dead-ass weeks. Like, no, this is our 43rd episode. We've made it this far. We've got some great playoff streams coming up and some great stories and more interviews and shit. So subscribe to the show.
Yeah, every game's important. Every game's important, and the true fans know that. Every game has meaning, and you're right on asking those kind of questions about the bullpen, about the lineup, about the starting rotation, because they could affect your postseason chances. Something that happens in June or July can totally throw things off for your ability to make it to October. So true fans understand that.
What are you doing now? You're on the ranch? You're going to go shoot some guns or something? I see like a new scope there. What do you got?
Yeah, I got a new suppressor put on one of the rifles. I was going to go dial it in. And then I've got my battery died in my Polaris, my side-by-side, so I got to go get a ratchet set and some sockets to take the battery out, put a new one in. We're going to trailer the Polaris back to Austin for a couple weeks so we can have it for Halloween. I ride the kids around the neighborhood in the ATV, and we have a good time. So a little work on the ranch. I got some rakes and some shovels. We're gonna get the kids out there doing some manual labor for a couple hours before we head back.
Enjoy the day off school, kids. Cooper, grab a shovel. All right, well, have fun with that. I'm gonna be putting together some. I think I don't want to tell you. I might have a TikTok or 2 out there. I'm just trying to hit different platforms.
Good.
You know.
It's good for you. Yeah, branch out.
Yeah, branch out. Well, this is Starting 9. Go subscribe to the show. Have fun. Happy Columbus Day. And we'll talk soon, buddy.
Yeah, buddy. Good show.